Well, good morning. Let me see if make sure my microphone's coming through good and loud. Let me test it. I hope everything's coming through loud and clear. I'm going to get all my sound preferences here right. I'm hearing some noises input. Okay. Yep. Okay, that's good. Now if I get some people in here, hope somebody give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the sound and everything. I'm trying to adjust that. All right. Well, as you can tell by my title of my story there, it's been a bad week for me this week because I've had some people out tailgating. I had somebody that was, I guess, thought they could just drive too close, and I'm having that. That seems to be a consistent problem that we're having with some of the. Got a little dark spot here. Let me see if I can light myself up here a little bit there. Of course, I don't know how light you want to see me. You might see my cut chin. I cut myself shaving Friday. When was it? Friday night. Barbara and I were headed out to a concert, see Delbert McClinton, and I was rushing around and like like everything, my big old chin there got in the way, and I cut my chin, and still got the battle scar from my chin right there. But Friday started off really bad for me. I mean, early in the morning we had an issue, but I mean it's sort of a normal issue. I mean you get problems with trucks, and what I had, we I got a call about 9 o'clock or 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and one of the drivers had blown a turbo on one of my trucks coming out of Virginia. So that's normal. I mean, you're going to blow turbos, and it's that truck had about 380, 400,000 on it. It's a good engine, Detroit engine, and that can be about right for that 60 series. It was in a Cascadia, but that's you don't get too upset with that because that's the normal. I mean, you're gonna have parts that fail. Well, let me back up. That earlier that night, I was about to forget about that because we always say things come in threes on us. Earlier that night, about 1 o'clock in the morning, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, I had a driver that cut a tire down, and the the bad part about that, I mean, we put brand new tires on our. We don't run the recaps, and the bad thing about that is I'm gonna be paying road service cost on that regardless. We were able to get to the truck stop. We got to a Love's truck stop, but you pay twice as much on the road for a tire. I mean, normally my tires cost me in the neighborhood of around I want to say about uh, a little over $300 a piece is my cost of a tire, of a new tire, of a new Goodyear or Bridgestone, or get up into Michelin, they get a little bit higher. I'm not seeing anything on the chat. I don't know if my chat room's working right or not. I've got people online, but I don't see any chats right now. I'm gonna sign on to my other. I can't. I'm not responding to anybody's chatting because I'm not seeing anything. Let me see if I can double check that. Make sure my chat room part is coming in. Uh, all right. I'm not. Well, I've got people online. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hey, Chris. Hey, go karts. Hey, okay, Ponka. Yeah, Tim. Yeah, I see everybody. Yeah, okay, I couldn't. Yeah, yeah. Is that rhetorical? Yeah, not really, Chris. All right, good. Yeah, now I'm seeing all my chat. For some reason my chat wasn't coming through there for a minute. But anyway, the uh, it started off like I said with a midnight call with a tire that got cut down. So we got that, and we uh, had the tire fixed, and then like I said, about it was probably around 8:30 in the morning. I got another call, and that was from the driver that blew a turbo. Okay, so I got Jim and Larry and sent them on their way with the wrecker to go pick it up because there was no way. Then we had to get a recovery from FedEx, and after that, about 45 minutes later, I got the phone call that I didn't want. I had my Atlanta driver that rear-ended another tractor trailer truck. And why these drivers feel like they can drive a tractor trailer truck, especially this one, was in construction. It was on there's bad construction down on I-85. We have cut these trucks back as far as top end speed. We only do 65 now, and even with that, you feel like they're still pushing it as hard as they can, and it just aggravates me that these drivers feel like they've got to run right up on the next guy, uh, and it's just ridiculous. You can maintain the same speed and still leave good distance between you and the next guy, but invariably these guys think they have to put their tail end right up against another truck or car or whatever. And then when something happens in front of them, say especially in front of if you're following a tractor trailer truck, you should give even more distance because you can't see over him to see what's going on in the traffic. And that's what really infuriates me, that drivers still do that. And this is not the first one we've had happen. I have had, that's been the major accident that we have had in the past 3 or 4 years, is rear enders, where my guys have followed too close, or just running too fast for condition, or too fast for conditions. I had I had a driver about a year and a half ago that was on a 2-lane road going down the road, and then all of a sudden this person is turning left in front of them. Well, they couldn't get stopped. My guy was accelerating through and wasn't paying attention. That person turns on their signal, goes to turn left, stops, boom, right into them. You can't stop these tractor trailers as quick as a car. Yeah, you got it, Chris. It got the AC. It got the AC condenser, the charge air cooler, radiator, a hood, a bumper, uh, damage to the cowl up there near the windshield. Yep, all of that. That's what got damaged on my part. And see, the bad thing about it is FedEx has changed our insurance policy. We have a $15,000 deductible now. It used to be $1,000 deductible. Now it is a $15,000 deductible for us on a wreck. That discourages, well, it doesn't discourage me. I mean, I can't do anything about it. So I'm responsible for the first $15,000 damage to either my car or the other car, period. Fortunately for me on this one, it was a tractor trailer truck, and all it hit was the rear bumper, bent the rear bumper, which I've been charged for one of those before, so I know about what that's going to cost me, about $1,500 if the carrier goes through and charges me for a new bumper. And yeah, $15,000, not 1,500, $15,000 deductible for, that's what we have now as and there's a couple of ways around it. We can lower it a little bit, but that's You would think it would have been the driver's first day, JC. No, it's through FedEx. That is FedEx insurance now, JC. We have to pay the new rule. Now we can go. That's if what they got us on, and we may have to change the way we're doing it. I can get it lowered, but I have to go workman's comp through them, through that carrier and everything else, and then it's still down to about five. Uh, but yes, we're responsible for the first $15,000, and if we don't have a safety plan in place, it's the first $20,000. So it's a crazy deal we got, and it used to be the first thousand. I mean, it was $1,000 deductible. I had to pay the first thousand, and they bumped it this last contract because they've had so many accidents to the first 15,000, and that hurts. And what it does, our insurance is good for any, I mean, any major thing, and usually it's catastrophic. Sometimes a wreck might cost $200,000. Uh, we've had wrecks that have been tremendous. If you roll over a unit and people damage a couple of cars. I mean, you can imagine, you can rear end somebody, tear up a couple of cars and everything else. You got 15, 20,000 just like that. So the cost can be astronomical. Yeah. Well, I mean, the guys, uh, I don't know what he was doing, but I mean, I got to change the mindset of this. It's really ridiculous right now. I've had, I've had, well, that's been the major accident that we've had is rear enders. I had one 2 months ago. Uh, Fortunately, with that one, I was with my trip lease truck, and my trip lease truck was able to pay for the cars and everything that way. Uh, so I didn't have to go through FedEx on that. But this one, I did have to go through FedEx. But basically, what it's going to amount to is I'm going to be paying for my own truck repair. So I don't know. I won't be out 15,000, but I've got the spare parts to fix this truck back. Good or bad or ugly, whatever you might say. I mean, I have trucks that I've taken out of service and different things like that. So I'll have the spare parts that I can rob off of one truck and put on another and that sort of stuff. So I will be able to, you know, get this truck fixed without too much outlay of my cash, real cash. But it's still going to cost me. But that's the downfall we have with some of this insurance and everything now is because uh, well, they're trying to slow them down. Is what they're doing. And if you don't, and well, they're trying to couple their own insurance with the way they want it done. It's a crazy situation, and I may have to rethink the way I'm doing the insurance on the FedEx too because it's getting really costly on something like that. But what do you do? But anyway, that was my thing of threes. I had a tire, I had a turbo, and then I had that wreck. And unfortunately, my wrecker was already headed toward Virginia, so I couldn't go recover that one that happened in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So I had to get a friend of mine that has a wrecker service and get him to go down and pick that one up and then bring it back to uh, Cherryville. And I had to hurry up and get somebody before they put me in the rotation wrecker stuff because it was a wreck on 85 and they can throw you on the rotation. Yeah, and that's that's about it, JC. Tire, turbo, and trash truck, and that was my three. So it was all with a T then. The three T's. Yep, that's right. Not a good Friday. Not a good Friday at all. That's for sure. But that's what you get. I mean, you get things like that, and uh, what do? You go along with the ride. That's all you can do, and everything. So it happens. It happens. I mean, things don't always go as expected. Now, do they, Chris? You know this, Chris. I watched Chris with his backhoe and a tree toppled over on your building too. You wasn't expecting that, and so that happens. Yeah, I know it. It's these are the woes of the trucking business. I mean, you think that everything's going to go smooth, and you prepare yourself, as good as you possibly can. We're doing everything, and say, I know what FedEx is going to come back at us, and they're going to say, well, how are you going to solve this problem? Well, as long as I got drivers, I can't solve that problem. I mean, we've got them in the safety programs. We've got them doing everything. Now, I guess the one thing they're saying, and I can understand it now more so than ever, is the collision avoidance system on these trucks, and they do seem to work better. And if we can get those implemented, where it actually slows somebody down when they're coming up on an accident or a slow traffic or something, because sometimes these guys are just not paying attention. I mean, they're coming up and they're thinking they've got plenty of distance, and that particular driver had been alerted a couple times, and he swore up and down he didn't know he was following that close. But I've got the alerts on the camera system. The camera system, evidently, in that truck was not loud enough to let him know that he was tailgating. But um, I get the alerts, and I need to coach. Like it says, I need to coach these drivers like that. Back off, back off. I'm telling you, back off. I don't care what your habits are. Well, good morning, Montana. Yeah, I got to make some goals somehow or another there. But that's the way life is. That's the way life is. I've got to get some of these drivers to kind of square up and quit tailgating. Tailgating is the worst thing for us. Period. I mean, I can. I don't know. It just drives me crazy. I mean, because I have the same problem with every one of these situations. They say, "Oh well, I thought I could get stopped." Well, you couldn't because you were running too fast, too close. Period. You can't run a tractor trailer truck even at 65. Uh, you know, we've cut them back to 65. Like I said, you can't continually run that close. You can leave it, another 50 or 75 feet or 100 feet, and you're fine usually. But to continually do the same darn thing just drives you up a wall. Well, and this guy may be doing something else. I may be looking for another driver on this particular guy, because he's not he's not only doing that wrong, he's doing a few other things wrong too. And it may be time to part ways with that particular guy. He's not been with us that long. He's actually he actually came on during the peak season. I've had a couple of them. I've had some great ones come on during the peak season. I've got two or three guys that I'm really impressed with, that have come on during the peak season and are really working hard, want to do extra work. Uh, this particular guy seems to be more of the excuse type thing. Every time you ask him about something, he's got an excuse, uh, and never seems to volunteer to do anything extra. So that kind of stuff. Yeah, drivers are hard to find, and that's our issue. And we discussed that with FedEx. Where do we get these quality drivers? Good morning, Brent. Uh, Glad to see you in there. Uh, the question is, where do we get these quality drivers? Now, I feel like I got one in Savannah, Georgia. I've got a new guy that just signed on, and I'm very impressed with him. He seems to be a very conscientious driver. I like the drivers to, check in and tell me how the equipment's doing, what they're doing, things like that. They don't have to give me but just a minute or two of their time, but at least have a good communication skill. The drivers are paid mileage, JC. We're paying, we pay uh, by the mile, and then they get paid drop and hook pay. So they're uh, if we did it hourly, I guess I don't know if that would slow them down or not at all if they got paid hourly. Uh, it just depends. Yeah, and I've heard that truck driving lady that sometimes these avoidance systems, they're not perfect. They're not perfect, and you've got to be careful with those. Yeah, well, I've got some good drive with this. My drivers right now, and some of the good ones I've got uh, one boy that's about early 30s, and he seems to be a really good driver, really conscientious, and I really like his attitude. He works good. The driver that I hired just recently for Savannah, Georgia, he's got about 15 years experience. I think he's 38, 39, and he is a very good driver, conscientious, and I like that. Yeah, that's a problem. Uh, the sensors are not perfect, they're not a panacea for anything. Uh, but I've been in one or two of them, and it's actually worked good, and they've got the adaptive cruise on them, and that along with that seems to help a little bit. Yeah, yeah. It's not only the younger drivers. I mean, this driver that wrecked Friday he was probably 50 years old, 48, 50 years old. I have to check his chart. Uh, yeah, I'm thinking he's every bit of that, but he just I don't know. I just wasn't happy with his. I never was happy with his communication skills back to me, and the fact that he would avoid uh, communicating with me when I needed to find out some answers, and that also was aggravating. Good morning, Greg. Um, okay, Brent, jump back in here when you can. Yeah. Well, we do our best to get the quality driver that we can, but we're in a situation now with the driver pool that you're limited to, and carriers are paying good money. I mean, we're paying good money. I mean, the lowest paid driver, I looked on my charts just the other day, the lowest paid driver that I have on the shortest route is making over 53,000 a year, I believe, 53, 54,000 a year. And that's the lowest paid. Uh, and $54,000 a year, I don't think is bad money. And that's with a short route. And we've got guys that are making 75, 80,000 uh, for just driving a truck. They get in my truck, they drive it. They have no, all they have to do is safely go from one point A to point B. We touch no freight at all. I mean, all they have to do is hook the units up, fuel the units, check them out, do a, pre-trip and post-trip, and that's it. That's all they have to do. They don't have to deal with customers. They don't have to deal with anything but traffic. And that's what we're trying to preach is just be safe in the traffic and don't get in a huge hurry. We have the mentality that you have to rush, rush, rush. And like I said, FedEx has tried to slow trucks down because they implemented this 65-mile-an-hour speed limit on our trucks, and we're still having accidents. Well, you would think, Chris, that it would be an easy job, and there are a lot of my guys that have been with me a good while and are great drivers. And I don't have a lot of attrition. I mean, I've got guys that have been with me 20 something years. Uh, I've got one's been 20 something years. One's been with me about 12. One's been with me. Uh, Several have been with me 7, 8, 10 years. So, excuse me, a little bit of cough this morning. Uh, uh, so I've got good drivers if we can just maintain the safety issue, because it's getting to be a critical thing with FedEx. I mean, FedEx will not stand for all these accidents. I mean, it gets to a point that they they call my contract in question if it gets to be uh, a a situation where we're having too many rear enders or too many this, that, and the others. You know, the severity of things, or basically, if it starts costing FedEx a good bit of money, you're going to be out of a contract. So you have to watch those things. Good morning, Brian. Um, yeah, and that and that, I guess the fact that they set tight deadlines, but all of them are obtainable. I mean, it's not like that we. I mean, they've got every single run set so it could be maintained at 48 miles an hour. I mean, they don't have it set right down to the 55 or 65 miles an hour to maintain it. I think it's 48 miles an hour. If you've got a run, they give you that much time frame at 48 mile. You can average 48 miles an hour and still be on time. So if you have now, what you get into is an issue if you've got a truck that starts struggling on you. If you got one that's got a something stopped up, or something gets stopped on the side of the road, then you will be late if you don't watch it. I had a issue with an air dryer that messed up just the other day, and uh, then it started losing air real quick. So what we did, we were able to get the loads recovered on the way back, but then we were able to get it back in because what it was doing, when it would pop off, when the air dryer would pop off, it started losing all the air. Then you had to shut the truck down, crank it back up, and it would reset itself. The air dryer would, that little valve would pop back down, and then you'd have air until it popped off again. So what we had to do to get the driver to really watch it, and when the primary tank got up to like 105, 100, before it got up, I think it popped off to 110. You had to just put your red valve in. He was bobtailing. Just put your red valve in, let it shoot some air out, and then keep it down a little bit lower and keep your RPMs down a little bit so it wouldn't uh, get up and push up against the pop off valve. He got it back. We couldn't do it with a trailer, because if you were doing it with a trailer, you would have you would have that much air getting up all the time. I mean, you could if you kind of rode your brakes, or popped your brakes, and you could possibly do that, but you'd be off and on real badly. So we had to get that one recovered too. But we get issues like that, and FedEx is good about having recovery trucks out there, or we'll have trucks in the same general route, and maybe one's pulling empties, the other's not pulling empties, and they have ways of networking and helping you out a good bit on the routes, because we have multiple trucks going on the same routes usually. So if it's in the parameters within the same network and the same hub, you can usually get help, and even sometimes help from another hub if you have to. But generally, you need to stay within your own hub area to get the help. Yeah, yeah, we don't. My guys don't hang out at truck stops. That's the thing. That's yeah. They're real good about helping each other out. We got a pretty good network. It's I mean, there's been a lot of times where and you if you got an issue, you call in and they'll say, well, this load's hotter. And in my case, sometimes I've got multiple trucks going the same direction myself, so I can kind of maintain. I mean, like I have several that go to East Knoxville, Tennessee. I got several that go to Richmond Hill, right down below Savannah, every day, and things like that. I've got a couple of Atlantas, and so I have trucks within my own system. If I do have an issue, I can either have somebody stop and help, or possibly switch around. I mean, I've been in situations where it was more practical to switch around because somebody, like I said, maybe pulling back empties, whereas another one's pulling back loads. And if a guy's got empties, there's not the rush to get the empties back. So if you have to stop and wait for a repair or something like that, then that's more feasible. Oh yeah, having my own wrecker saved me a ton because I have not got the wrecker bill on that actual wreck yet. That I would imagine that wrecker bill is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500 to $1,600 of what I had. And yeah, I've had to use. I thought I was going to have to use my wrecker another time with that air dryer situation, but yeah, we have kept the wrecker really busy. My wrecker, having that, I would imagine that if I'd had to tow that wrecker back, I mean that truck back from Roanoke, Virginia, back to my shop here in Cherryville, that generally cost me, I want to say around $1,800. So that was $1,800 saved. Now I'm still going to have to put the turbo on, but you can imagine with the cost of if you didn't have your own shop, if you didn't have your own wrecker, that cost right there, if you were an independent contractor and you had your own truck and you were dependent on everybody, you could have a $5,000 or $6,000 cost just for that one incident. And plus, you may not be able to get it back on the road as quickly as I can. Now we've already got the turbo back in stock. I mean, my driver, I mean, excuse me, my shop foreman Larry. As soon as we knew about this, he called Freightliner and had us a turbo delivered that afternoon before he even got back with the truck. So we should be able to clean out the charge air cooler, the pipes, everything, because this one pops some oil into the system, uh, and clean it out good because you've got to clean it out so you don't have a runaway truck with you if you don't thoroughly clean out after a turbo pop. All the oil residue and everything else, if it gets over into that charge air cooler system, you're going to have a truck that'll run away with you. You crank that thing up and it's going to get all that rush of oil into the turbo, and it'll run 90 miles an hour on you. So you got to watch that. Yeah. Yeah. Larry's the man, isn't he, JC? JC got to meet Larry when he was down here. JC bought a truck from me about what's that been, about 2 months now, JC? Yeah, he got to meet Larry. Larry has been with me about 25 years, and he's a great guy. He's got a lot of experience. He had worked full time at Carolina Freight, and after they went out of business in Cherryville, he went to work for Caterpillar, rebuilding bulldozers and everything. And then after that, he went to JB Hunt. And then during that time, he was working part time for me all that time too, working on the side. And then about 15, I guess it's been about 15, 16 years ago, when we started getting larger in the trucking business, I had to get Larry full time. So Larry came on with me full time about 15 years ago. And he's a godsend. He does everything for me. Larry will work. If I've got a problem at 1 o'clock in the morning, he goes and fixes it. If I got one at 4 o'clock in the morning, he will go fix it. And Jim's about the same way too. Jim does like that. These guys know that the trucking business is not a 9 to 5 job, and they work it. They know we're small in comparison to a lot of things. Now, granted, I pay these guys good. I think Jim and Larry both will say, hey, I'm getting paid pretty good money, and you've got to do that. And I don't. They don't punch clocks with me. Those two guys are on straight time. They don't punch clocks. Jim is also a spare driver, and during peak season, I had to use him a good bit as driving. But I like his skills because Jim drives a wrecker for me. So he drives a wrecker, and him and Larry go out. And sometimes it takes both of them. Like that issue in Roanoke, uh, we knew right quick that was a 2-man job. So I send Larry and him both out because we have to get the units and everything squared up with FedEx and get our unit out. And it's easier for a 2-man job. So we do it that way. Now, of course, sometimes Larry or Jim, either one, can go out and do a recovery. Usually, if it's a one that has to be expedited quickly, I like to do a 2-man job on it. And if it's something that we can do and we can take our time and we know it's not an issue, I'll send one guy on the record. Yeah, yeah. Larry doesn't. Larry will tell you he didn't think there's ever been a beautiful man. That's what he says. He said he'll tell you right quick that men aren't beautiful to him. Yeah, and women are beautiful, not men. So he'll let you know right quick. Yeah, yeah. I used to have to punch a clock when I worked at Carolina Freight. I punched a clock. I was a union employee. I worked whatever shift they had. You'd punch the clock and then punch out at the end of the day. And yeah, that I used to do that when I was a teamster. Had you 30 minutes for lunch, had and that was it. Yeah, we used to do that as a teamster. So yeah, I know the feeling of punching a clock. I'm really not keen on it though. Oh, for my own business, no. Well, my guys here at the Napa store on the clock, but I don't. And I've got one mechanic that's on the clock at the shop, but I don't personally. Of course, I don't punch the clock on anything. If I did, I'd have my clock continually runs. I don't ever get to punch off the clock, you might say. But yeah. I was late here at the store, and um, yeah, I guess if I was to add up how many hours I'm actually working the business, it would be in the neighborhood of 80 hours a week, 70, 80 hours a week. Because, I mean, even when I'm home semi relaxing, I'm on the clock doing things, and my mind is continually moving. I like that in a way, though. Uh, I don't have a lot of relaxed downtime. Uh, I mean, I'm relaxing. Let me rephrase that. I mean, like this. This is a outlet for me. I'm relaxing. I'm, kind of spilling my uh, guts out a little bit on what's going on, and I enjoy talking with y'all guys. And you get a little camaraderie there. And JC, I know is about the same way too, Chris. And we see JC on, and JC can ramble for a long while too, and we enjoy the back and forth camaraderie amongst ourselves. I think so we can. Yeah, yeah. It's I just don't count the hours because I just don't count the hours. If I had to count them and then sit back and say, well, how much am I getting paid per hour? I probably would get $3 an hour if I got that much. I don't know because or maybe $4 an hour is what I'm making. I don't count the hours. I don't count the hours or the pay or whatever on that uh, because it would be disheartening. I think if you did, uh, you could. That's just one more. That's another added pressure you putting on yourself by counting your hours. I think so. I consider every day of the week and every hour of the day I'm dedicated at doing some things. And I enjoy doing things. Uh, I've got. I know I don't. If you guys are interested in music, one of the reasons I was over here late last night, I'm doing my radio show. I'm actually after all this stuff that I'm doing. I know your guys are going. You got to be crazy, and yes, I am. I'm doing a radio show, uh, a 2 hour radio show each week. We started this last week, and we had some fun with it. And I'm doing another one this week. But each Tuesday morning, I'm on the radio for 2 hours, uh, uh, doing an oldies show called Cruising with Mike. So if you want to hear my radio voice, I'd be cruising with Mike, cruising the Carolinas with Mike. That's what it is. And I'm talking about the days when I used to be a curb hop when I was 14, 15 years old. And I was hop curb, sort of like the Big Boy Shoney's or I don't know if who else has curb hops anymore, but you'd see them on TV. I know everybody. I didn't do roller skates. That's the only thing I didn't do. But I was a curb hop. That was one of my first jobs when I started out in the public. And what I'm talking about is the days when we're out cruising in our cars and the music we played. So I'm playing the hits from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. That's as far as I go, is up into the 80s. Uh, and just good rock and roll tunes. And we're mixing it up and that sort of thing. And I'm doing that. And of course, the reason I'm doing that is me and the guy that owned the radio stations, uh, we're doing some trade on that. So I get free advertisement. I give him the 2 hour show that he likes. So he puts that within his automation and they run it on a regular basis. And then that's something he doesn't have to do. And he can sell advertisement around it. So it's working out good and he's liking it. He likes what I produced. And I enjoy that part because it's putting my old music together. So, so that's, like Sonic. Yeah, Sonic. We lost our Sonic over in Lincoln. We had one, but they shut the doors for some reason. They're tearing that down, putting in a bigger something else over there. But those type drive-in restaurants were prevalent when I was young, back in the day, back in the '60s, when I grew up. I'm older than most of you guys, but yeah, I was born in '51. So this coming year I'll be 68 years old. So I'm the old guy out here. Most guys out here are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. But I'm the old guy that's out here trying to maintain everything and try to keep my trucks rolling. I'm actually on two stations, not just one. I'm running on. It's got two. The station is WLON or WOHS, and you can actually get it online if you're interested in actually listen to it at 10 o'clock on Eastern time here. It'll be 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock Eastern time, and you go on to ktcbroadcasting.com, ktcbroadcasting.com, and you can listen to it online nationwide if you wanted to. So if you guys want to see how bad I sound on the radio or hear what I've got, you can actually do that online and hear it nationwide. So if you want to tune in Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock or a little bit after, I think he has the news first. So it's a little bit after 10. It's about 5 after 10 when he starts it up, I think. But I'll be on the air doing that this week again. Well, every Tuesday from 10 to 12 on Tuesday mornings. And you'll hear me advertise my Napa store, of course. And then you'll also hear get some good old rock and roll tunes. I mean, y'all guys, you'll probably like some of it too. This week I'm playing. Well, I've got some Beatles. I've got some Stevie Ray Vaughan, if you like him. I've got a Stevie Ray Vaughan song I'm playing. I may do some Jimi Hendrix. I think I got a Jimi Hendrix song lined up. Some good rock and roll, and good songs that a lot of people, if you hear the song, oh yeah, I like that, and they don't think about how old the song is. KTC, KTC Broadcasting, not KTE, KTC, C like in cow. So it's what it stands for is Kevin, Teresa, and Calvin. That's the three people. So it's KTC Broadcasting, and they're online. They're probably online right now, and it's called The Boss. It's Beach Oldies and Sports Stations, what it is, and he has 3 radio stations. I'm gonna be on 2 of them each. I'm gonna be on the ones that broadcast in Lincoln and Shelby, and then here in Cherryville, I'm doing regular local advertisement. But I like Beach and Oldies, so that's where I'm at. All right, JC, we'll see you. Yeah, they're on YouTube. That's what they're on YouTube, Chris. Beach and Oldies Sports Station. It says The Boss, and you just type on that on YouTube, and you can pull up the channel on YouTube, and they're broadcasting, I think, 24 hours a day on that. So it'll be on that. So if you have a notion to listen to that on the internet this coming Tuesday, listen to it, and you can critique it and tell me what you think about it, and email me back and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's available on it's KTC, ktcbroadcasting.com. Yep, you got it, Chris. You found it evidently. That's what it is, and you'll see that. And I'll be on the air 10 to 12 on Tuesdays. And now they have 3 different ones. One of them will have just a country station, but the other one has the Boss. The one I'll be on will be the Boss station, the Beach Oldies and Sports Station. So I will be on that particular show from 10 to 12 and everything. Yeah, my email address is mjones1527 at gmail.com. You can call them in, but you won't get me. I'm pre-recording this. I'm actually working on it as we speak over here. So yeah, we're not doing a live one yet. We may eventually. I really don't want to get into a live because I'm scheduled to do things at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I've got too many regular phone calls going off. So I mean, you can email me your request, but I don't want to be harassed on the air. I can tell you that. You can call all you want to the station, but you won't get me. That's for sure. But hopefully you'll like what I got. But I'm trying to mix it up and make it so it's interesting for everybody. Oh no, I'm not going to forget my live stream on Sunday. I'm still doing. I enjoy this too. So no, I'm not taking away anything. I'm going to continue doing both. I enjoy the live stream because I like the camaraderie between and amongst the ones we have. So I know I'm not going to quit this. And I put out a lot of things about my trucking and my Napa store and everything. Actually, I'm going to expand this if I can. I'm not going to go backwards. To me, this is what's going good, and the advertising part is going good because my Napa store is getting better every day. I mean, we're really last month we were 48% better than the previous year, and this month I think we're going to be even better than that. I mean, knock on wood. I hope that's wood. but knock on wood that we feel like we're doing extremely good and going in the right direction with the Napa store too. But for an old guy, I kind of keep on knocking, keep on rocking and rolling and doing my thing. And I hope that I'm interesting enough for people to tune in and live stream and the AM FM radio, that kind of stuff too. And I used to do sound and everything for bands and everything years ago. And I used to own one of these radio stations that I'll be broadcasting on. I used to own WCSL about 30, how many years ago? Almost 40 years ago. I owned that radio station, or it owned me. And I enjoyed it when I was young, but I was inexperienced financially, and it really cost me a lot. That was one of my biggest failures, I guess, I ever had, was the radio station and the newspaper. I had a radio station and a newspaper, and I was underfunded and inexperienced on what it took financially to keep that moving. And had I been smarter on that, I could have done better. But I had bad timing, bad logistics, and basically I was underfunded. I did not have the funds that it took or the capital to keep that rolling good. So that was my biggest failure, I guess, business failure that I've ever had, was that radio station. And my kids always kind of kid me, especially since I'm doing the commercials now. They said, "You're not going to buy another radio station?" I said, "Nope. I have learned that lesson. I will not buy another radio station." And really, terrestrial radio stations are tough. That's a real tough business to be in. I mean, it's tougher now than it was 40 years ago. 40 years ago, it was actually more regulated. So it's different. Yeah, you can watch YouTube on me. I'm gonna be on YouTube, and yeah, but I won't be, I won't be doing it. This is as close as I get to any kind of live call in, the chat and everything else. This is as close as I get to that. Well, guys, I am gonna get out of here because I'm losing my voice a little bit, and I gotta save that for the radio station. So I've got to get over here and get to work on rock and roll. So I'm going to be doing a little rock and roll. And I'm going to sit down and watch the Daytona 500 because my buddy Landon is going to be he's the gas man for the 24 car. And they're on the pole. They're on the pole for the Daytona 500. So wish Landon a good bit of luck today. And I'll be watching for him. Like I said, he's the big gas guy. He's my business partner we're bringing on to help me in the trucking. So he and his wife. But Landon Walker will be the gas man for the 24. So pull for the 24, William Byron. That's who's on the pole for the Daytona 500. So I'll let y'all guys go, and y'all have a good day. And I'll see you next week, come rain or shine or whatever. See you next week at 9 o'clock. See you guys.